Hello everybody. I'd like to share something with you today. Something that has been of so much value to myself. But before I share it, I just want to mention that somebody who is very close to me contacted me today and said, first of all, she called to wish me happy birthday. And she said, I'm just on a journey driving and I'm wondering, I'm so grateful for you, Amanda. There's so much appreciation and I'm just wondering, what is the meaning of it? Have you ever wondered what's the meaning of life? Where does all of this come from? And I sent a message back thanking my dear friend. And I said, I'll do a video and I'll share what I think the meaning of life is with whoever desires to hear this. The first thing I want you to do is just get comfortable. Take some time out for you. Just get comfortable. And this brought me so much value. In fact, this is the thing that ended all suffering, all confusion, all misery. And happiness is something that is inescapable. I'm going to use an analogy, one that I think most people can relate with, and just get myself comfortable. And the analogy is so that hopefully you can relate to everything that is in the little story. So I'll be as quick as I can without rushing it. So I'd like you to come on this journey with me, and I'd like you to imagine that I'm just going to use imaginary people. So if you imagine there are two people, and we're going to call these two people servants, and they've got a master. Now, the master every day, without fail, bakes a chocolate cake. And the master's in the kitchen and the servants or students are sat waiting for the master to bring the cake to the servants. The master bakes the cake and cuts 2 slices, brings them in and serves the servants. Both servants take the cake and eat the cake, and at the same time they close their eyes because of the flavour, the deliciousness of this cake. Every time they eat it, it is just that, oh my God, this is gorgeous. Oh my God, we've never tasted a cake like this. We've got the best master. And the master's been doing this with the servants for years. And then one day, one of the servants gets up. They've eaten the cake that the master has brought in, and they've gone into the kitchen. They said, Master. The master said, yes, dear. Could you show me how to bake this cake? Because I appreciate that one day you might not be here. And this cake is, it's indescribable. There's plenty of chocolate cakes out there, but this one, every time I eat it, the appreciation, the gratitude, the happiness, and I don't ever want to lose that. And the master just nods his head. And he said, and what about the other servants who also had the cake? And the servants in front of the master said, He's just happy eating the cake. He hasn't shown any interest in. He said, okay, that's fine. So the following day, the servant meets with the master in the kitchen, and the servant thinks, I'm going to learn this cake. Rolls his sleeves up, and the master said, okay, the first thing that you need to do is, there's a broom and there's a cloth and there's some disinfectant. You need to clean the kitchen. Before you do any cooking, you clean the kitchen. And the servant was a little bit shocked, and then he rationalized what the master said, and he said, oh, yeah, that's true, actually, I never thought of that. So the first lesson that the master gives the servants is humility. And the master knows that humility is the very first thing that has to be, I don't want to say taught, but it has to be shown. So the servant gets on with cleaning the kitchen, the worktops, and getting the kitchen ready for the master to start baking the cake. And the servant is really enthusiastic because he knows that, you know, this is what's needed. Time goes by and the master is satisfied that humility is now a part of the servant. So the one day the master comes to the servant, he said, are you ready to learn the next step? And the servant's like, yes, master, yes, because he's got his eye on the goal. The goal is the cake that makes you happy. So the master said, right, and he got all the ingredients out, and there wasn't that many ingredients. There was just flour, sugar, milk, eggs, butter, and cocoa. And the servant said, wow, just those simple ingredients make that cake taste the way that it does. And the master smiled. So he's now showing the servants how to mix the ingredients, what order they go in, and how the cake is made and how long it's put in the oven for. And the servant is watching and learning. So now he's learning how to bake the cake. And he does that for a while. And then at the next stage, the master says to the servant, have a go, let's see. And as you can imagine, the servant, he would have still had to ask the master, and there's times when he would have made a mistake. He didn't weigh the butter properly, he put too much milk in, but all of these things he's learning, and the master is patient because he knows that that's what he went through to master the excellence of the chocolate cake. So over a period of time, the servant, he's now as good as his master. When you taste the cake, the master's cake has got a lot more flavour than his, but it's very similar. So as the servant tastes his cake and compares it to the master's, he says, it's the same cake, but there's something really rich in your cake, and I don't understand. I've done everything you've told me to do. I've done more than what you've told me to do. And the master realises now that the servant is maturing. However, he's taking a bit too much ownership. He's comparing the chocolate cakes. But the master being the master, he said, okay, now it's time for the next stage. Come with me to buy the ingredients. And the servant doesn't see what this has got to do with the difference in the taste of the cake, but he wants the prize at the end. So he says, okay, master, I'll come with you. So the master takes the servant to buy the groceries, buy the flour, the butter, the milk, the sugar, the eggs, the cocoa. And the servant is humbled a little bit more because he saw what the master had to go through to get into the supermarket. He saw what he had to go through to put up with people barging into him, pushing into him in a hurry to get their groceries bought. He saw everything. He saw the traffic jams, and the master was just silent. And the servant, he's getting a little bit more humility now. He's like, wow, the master's never complained about this So it was overlooked. The servant didn't know that the master did this. This is what the master had to do, as well as everything else he's learnt in the kitchen. So this goes on for a while. And again, it still didn't really do anything to improve the richness of the cake that the servant made, but it was very similar to the master's. But there was still something in the master's cake that the servant didn't have. And of course, then the servant starts to have a little bit of self-doubt, saying, I don't think I'm as good as him. I've done everything he's told me to do. I've even gone the extra mile, but I don't think that I'm as good as him, because his cake, it's so rich. And so that now that the servant is really diligently paying attention to everything the master does to see if he's missed anything. So the servant is becoming more aware. He's noticing, he's copying the way the master walks. Maybe it's the way that he walks that makes the cake taste better, because he's literally done everything the master has asked him to do. One day, the servant went to his room and he was a little bit tearful. He said, I don't understand this. I don't understand it. When I eat the cake that the master taught me, I'm definitely eating a chocolate cake. There's no if, buts and maybes about it. But when I taste the master's cake, the happiness, the joy, the satisfaction, the completeness, the peace, I've got to find out what is wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me. So the next day, the servant approaches the master as normal to help to bake a chocolate cake. And the master said, what's the matter? And the servant told the master his feelings. The master hugged him. He said, would you like us to bake the cake together? Shall we partnership? And the servant said, yeah, that's what's missing. So the master and the servant, 50-50. 50-50. They done the kitchen, they cleaned the kitchen 50-50. They both went shopping, they bought the ingredients, they both handled the groceries, they both came home, they both prepared the cake and mixed it, and one opened the oven door, the other one put it in, they both took it out together, they both sliced the cake. And the servant ate his cake and he gave another slice of cake to the other servant, because, by the way, the other servant, he's just been served, he's just enjoying the cake, he has no interest in finding out where it's come from, he's just satisfied eating the cake. So the servant who helped to bake the cake, he could taste some richness, but he could also taste his chocolate cake in the chocolate cake. So he said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now. And the master said, is everything okay? And he said, no, master, I'm not being ungrateful, but there's something missing in this cake and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, and I'm getting really frustrated. And the master said, I'm going to have to take you on a journey. He said, I've always known the journey that you have to go on, but if I would have told you, you wouldn't have believed me. You wouldn't have thought it was necessary. Are you sure you want to deliver the same cake that I've been delivering for the past 40 years? And the servant said, yes, master, because I know you're not always going to be with me. So yes, I need to. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. So the next day, the master approached the servant. He said, say goodbye to the other servant. You're going to leave him for a short while. And the master spoke to the servant and said, I've prepared 100 cakes. I've prepared the mixture and I've got somebody to come in and pop them in the oven who knows exactly what to do. So you will eat. I won't be here, but the cake mixture will be here for you every single day. You're going to get the same richness, the same rich chocolate cake. The other servant, who had no interest in the making of the cake, he said, "Thank you, master, off you go. It's fine. As long as the cake's here, that's fine, off you go." So the one servant has gone off with the master, and the master didn't tell him where he was taking him, but he knew he was going on a journey, and he was seeing different things like, oh, I've never been here before, and, you know, seeing, just going to places he'd never been before. And the first place that the master took him was to a farm. And he said, "A farm?" And the servant didn't like the farm because, you know, it was in the outdoors. He was used to being inside in the warmth. He didn't mind popping out every now and again, but so the master took the servant to the farm and asked him to observe, have a look at what the farmer does. And the master's like, "What's this got to do with the chocolate cake?" The master said, just see, just look, just observe. And the master kept the servant there for 6 months because the servant had to see what the farmer had to go through to rear the cow that the milk came from for the cake, where the butter comes from for the cake. He also had to see the chickens, what the chickens go through to lay the eggs. And the servant is becoming more and more aware and more humbled at the totality of life. He saw the cow. He saw that the grass has to be green for the cow to eat. He saw what the cow had to go through just to produce milk, which then can also be churned to butter. He saw what the chickens had to go through. He saw how early the farmer had to rise in the morning to ensure that his animals were attended to. He saw the bigger picture. He said, "Oh my God." But the master said, "I want to give you some depth. Come with me." So the master then took the servant and showed him step by step by step. He'd showed him the cow. He'd showed him the milk coming out of the cow. He'd showed him what has to happen to the milk to be filtered so that it can be drank by humans. He took him to the factory to show him the people that had to get up in the morning to get that milk into cartons. He showed him the delivery man that picks the milk up, and he showed him the milk from the delivery van to the shelf in the supermarket. So the servant has seen the bigger picture. The master said, "I haven't finished. Come on, we've got another journey." The master boarded a plane with the servant and took him abroad. Now, please forgive me because I don't really know. I know that sugar comes from sugar cane, but I'm not sure what country, but I know it's a warm country. And that's where the master took the servant and took him to the origin of the sugar cane so that he could see what the tree had to go through to produce the sugar cane, to show him what the people had to go through to pick the sugar cane, where they had to carry it to get it into the sugar that was in the chocolate cake. The master also done this with flour, showed him the origin of the flour, before the flour is grounded to fine dust, and every single step, every single person that had to appear there to play their part, to ensure that that flour was packed and put into the right packages, and then the journey to the supermarket. The servant observed the aeroplane, every bolt on that aeroplane, everything about the aeroplane, because without the aeroplane, that flour's not leaving that country to come over to the country where the servant and the master are living. So now the servant, he thinks he's got the bigger picture, But then he notices that there's one thing that everybody has got in common, whether it's the farmer, whether it's the person who's collecting the sugar cane, whether it's the ones who are involved with the flour being grounded, whether it's the delivery driver, the sales assistant in the shop. He said there's one thing everybody's got in common. And the master said, and what is that? He said, everybody's breathing. The master smiled. The master said, take another look. And the servant said, it's not just everyone who's breathing, everything is breathing. Everything has got life in it. The grass that the cow eats has got life. The cow has got a breath. The chicken has got a breath. So it's quite daunting for the servant. So the master and the servant return home, and the servant hasn't really got much to say at this point. And the master said, I'm going to sit down with the other servants and I'm going to let you do the chocolate cake. So the servant does everything the master has taught him, from cleaning the kitchen, to go into the grocery store, to buy the ingredients, to prepare the meal, the cake, to baking it, to slicing it and serving it. And the master said, there's only 2 slices here, where's your slice? The servant said, Master, the richness of the cake is not the cake. The richness of the cake is knowing that the cake is full of life. Oh. The servant has now become the master. He's seen every breath, every single breath that had to take place so that he could sit down and enjoy a slice of chocolate cake. When the servant did bite into the cake, you see the happiness that he tasted when he ate the master's cake and the contentment. He had that, and he also had so much appreciation, the totality, that his cake was far richer than the master's. The other servant, he's just happy eating the cake. And the 2 servants sit down and talk about the same cake, and the servant who didn't have nothing to do with it, he said, my God, this is just delicious. This is just amazing. I think I'm going to go and tell everybody about this cake. And the servant who had been on the journey with the master stopped his friend. He said, listen, I know the cake is delicious, and I know that you want everyone to experience what you're experiencing. That's only natural. He said, but if you go and tell people about the cake, you're only giving them a little bit of the message and it's not going to do anything. He said, in fact, they can look at you and say, oh, shut up, you're only showing off that you've got chocolate cake. He said, so I wouldn't really go and preach about this cake, because you've only seen the end result. And the servant said, "What do you mean? You said the cake's beautiful. We've both agreed." He said, "Yes." He said, "But there's a depth to this. There's a depth to this cake that if I tell somebody about it, I can also give them the depth so that this cake will be with them forever." The cake represents happiness. The cake represents the totality. And sometimes on this journey, we can taste something, and it can be knowledge, it can be self-realization, it can be Christianity, it can be anything really, it can be anything. And we can think that we know it because I've experienced it. But when we go to the depth to find out what life did and all the people and circumstances involved for that thing to bring so much joy, it gives a different perspective. So I suppose the moral of this story, for me, is when we have been called, because we've all been called to something. We've all been called to something because the planet is rich. It's to I'll say it another way. If I bring it home to here, for many years, I've done different things, good, bad, indifferent. And for many years, I've had some amazing spiritual insights and some amazing knowledge. I can teach this, I can handle this, I can do that. But there are some things that I can't do that with. There are some things that, some things that you're really good with and you're really good, and some things are so natural that you just take it for granted. I think everybody's got that story. But there are some things I know nothing about, and some things I know a little bit about them and I just can't master them. It's just not in me. I think we have all had this. But the day came when I said, what is life? What the hell is life? There was days when I felt unfulfilled, but I still went to bed and fell asleep and dropped that unfulfillment. So what did that really mean? There was days when I felt, oh my God, this is it. This is the totality of life. I am fully awake, fully aware. Oh, awareness aware of itself, self-realized, awake. Even after saying all that, I'd still go to bed and go into a deep sleep. And it was only when I said, so what is life? What is the purpose of waking up? What is the purpose of joy? It's nice when it's here, but if I drop it every time I go to bed, what is the purpose of it? What's the essence? Why? And one day last week, I sat there and I said, I really don't get life. I know so much about life. My God, I have written 2 books. And even in those books, you won't find what life is. They're just Amanda's stories. I said, what is it that I can hold dear, all of these things, and then every night drop them and go into deep sleep? What the hell is it? What is this? What is life? And then I realized the loneliness. I said, my God, because for me, being realized separated everything and brought everything together, but it still didn't have a meaning. I couldn't find the essence. And I started contemplating. I said, so life has to have a purpose. It can't just be to wake up or be self-realized. It can't just be that. There's got to be a reason for the falling asleep, the waking up, the seeking, the not finding. There's got to be a reason. Don't just tell me it's a game. Don't just tell me to let go of it, because I want I want to know. So I started sounding a bit like the servant who wanted to know why the master's cake tastes so rich. Why? Why does it take, and especially after I've cooked it and I've followed your steps, why does it not taste as rich as yours? Why doesn't it deliver the same message? And in deep contemplation, I realized that no matter what I have accomplished, even if I have outlived the personal I am and I've taken on the totality I am, that was not satisfying enough. That was just like an achievement in spiritual evolution, if there is even such a thing. I said, no, there's something. And as I started to reflect, I realized that all the plans that I'd made, some were good, some were bad. All the plans I'd made, the things that made life really mean something was when this soul touched another soul, and I mean deeply touched. And the other soul that it touched was always a stranger. It was always spontaneous, unexpected, out of the blue. And I said, but even that, I still go to bed every night and drop it. Every night I go to bed and I drop that and go into deep sleep. But there's not even an eye that's dropping it. But you know, just bear with me, because it's just getting the essence of this message out, not really which eye is saying it. And then I realized there is something that is always here, and something that every single human being and I have in common, and it is the breath of life. And then I realized that's what I've been looking for, the breath. It's the most overlooked thing, but it's the thing that we know before we leave the body, is the breath, if we are fortunate to have that deep contemplation. And so I said, I'd better get to know this breath. And it was through being one with the breath that everything was revealed. That's the reason why I love this other human being. I can say it's the characteristics, but it's really the essence, life essence. It's the essence, and the essence has revealed itself as the breath of life to me. And so everywhere I look, anything I look at, with the story of the chocolate cake, everything I see, I know that life used the breath of life to bring that here. So I suppose that's the full human experience. But if I want to have the full God experience, all I have to do is become aware of the breath. And it's still the breath. So the message is really simple. The chocolate cake that you've been given in life, because everybody's been given a chocolate cake. Some of us have been eating it every day. Some of us Just remember the taste of it. Remember that there's something's missing. Happiness. My chocolate cake is missing. It is to discover what that chocolate cake is. What is that thing that makes you so happy? What's that thing? And it's to trace it back to its origin. Trace it right back to the core. So that when you eat that cake, you are eating the totality, the completeness. Because one thing I've realized with the breath is when I was identified as a body-mind, the breath didn't mind. It was still there as the master and the servant. When there was self-realization, yes, I found God. I am one with God. It's just this. The breath was still there as master and servant. Through the careful observation of the breath, there's more attention going to awareness. But the awareness is aware of the breath. And the breath is the breath of life. It's the thing that we don't want to lose. It's the diamond. We want to be secure. We want to be safe. We want everyone to love us. We want to love everybody. We just want everything to be okay. We want happiness with no sorrow. But I challenge you that if you go after your dreams, go after them. You know, no one's saying you mustn't go after your dreams. Go after that thing if you can, if you've got the capacity to do so, or you know how to do it. But then just realize that every night when you go to sleep, you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. But the thing that's always been with you, the breath. Wisdom says to pay attention to the breath. And there's no preconditions. You don't need to be spiritually understanding this. Everyone's got a breath. The breath doesn't mind if you're spiritual. The breath doesn't mind if you're on a park bench or in a palace. The breath has said, I'm your master and your servant. Your master and your servant. The breath is the master. The breath is the servant. When we breathe in, we master it. And when we breathe out, the breath is the servant. That's the meaning of life here. That no matter what, doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter. Because the one thing that is always there is that breath. And for the witnessing presence, the awareness of the breath. Sometimes I forget I'm getting on with stuff, and then whatever I see, I'm going to see the totality of the object. I'm going to see what lengths life caused humans and elements to go through to bring that thing here. So it's total appreciation. So that is the meaning of life. That is the totality of life. No matter which way you look at it, you can look at it going outwards or you can look at it inwards. But the thing that's the realization that it's the breath of life, that is life essence. That's the vital. So while you've still got that breath of life, find out who you are. Use the breath to find out who you are. Not just existence, I'm aware, but to find out, go to the depth of that. because I guarantee you're going to come back with so much happiness, so much love, so much appreciation for everything. And then life just becomes so effortless to the point that everything's appreciated. And when life prompts you and says go there or go there, you easily go because you know that you're going to be meeting with life. If you stay at home, you're meeting with life. And when you go out, you're meeting with life. And life, you start to see the abundance and the magical, the majestic life. So that's my chocolate cake story. It'd be interesting to hear other people's chocolate cake story, that richness that the Master has been giving you. Are you going to go to the end of the earth to find the appreciation and the love and the richness of that chocolate cake? Thank you for taking time to listen. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you.